Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Single Parents Daily podcast with your hosts,
Shadi Zenmar
and Evan DeMarco. Today we have, I don't know much about this guy other than the fact that he has an awesome name. And just by that alone, I can tell that he's a good person. But on top of which, there's some other really cool things that I think the messages that we all need. So I'm not going to introduce him. I'm going to let him introduce himself and we'll fill in the blanks. So Evan Nimke, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a good start sharing the name with the co-host. But yeah, my name is Evan. I'm not a big deal. I have a dog who is barking at me. That's perfect timing. But no, I'm a stay-at-home dad first and foremost. That is my current occupation. You caught me on an amazing day where my family is actually out of town. This has never happened in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
I have 4 days to myself, no kids. Just the dog. I'm glowing a little bit with excitement. Yeah, no.
So Evan, tell us, I'm going to say Evan 2, Evan 1, Evan 2, Cameron 1, Cameron 2. How did Viral Dads start? What was your objective with Viral Dads? Because it's grown and you have a huge following.
Yeah, I started Viral Dads last year because I was triggered, so to speak, just seeing my own social media Instagram feed filled with dad shaming and husband hating memes and quotes and just people who I thought were great content creators, but they were just dragging dads through the mud. Even some of the bigger dad accounts, this isn't like a shots fired thing, but it just was a lot of feeding into stereotypes that I thought were not outdated. I mean, dads are easy targets for sure. A lot of those hold true.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't see any positive light being shined on active dads, passionate dads, stay-at-home dads. And I thought I just wanted to make an attempt to shine a more positive light on all the dads who are out there, not just stay-at-home dads, but just dads who love being a dad and dads who aren't just overweight and lazy with New Balances on and cargo shorts and, every
we
stereotype.
laugh because we're like picturing it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows it. And I probably in some day and age might become that, but I'm just, it didn't represent me.
Yeah.
It didn't represent my friends. It didn't represent other dads I knew. And I was motivated to just create something a little more positive. So I started it and I was like, you know what, if this gets to 10,000 followers, I'm going to tell my family about it. I'll tell my wife about it. I'll tell my friends about it. And I didn't know if it ever would. And it did that in like a month and a half. So
Wow.
kind of
So do you
thought I might be onto something there and just been riding the lightning ever since.
So do you post only positive things, highlighting dads, or is there like funny jokes about being married to someone like a woman, or how, those type of jokes?
Yeah. I mean,
that we do to guys.
No, I mean, I think humor is the best medicine. So it's like a fine balance where I try and find and curate and post things that are wholesome and are supportive without pitting spouses against each other. I really don't want to just be another account who is like bashing my wife for her tendencies or shopping or just any of those like stereotypical behaviors. I'm like, if I'm doing that, then I'm just feeding into the problem that I was trying to fix. So, but I mean, you got to laugh at yourself sometimes. Can't take yourself too seriously. Viral Dads, the tone is primarily humor in itself, but I try and really not do it at the expense of dads or moms or wives or husbands. If it's anything that I think is degrading or just, wrong, I probably won't share it because there's other accounts that can do that. And I try and keep it a little more positive.
And we appreciate that. I think as a dad, I appreciate that. And especially as a single dad, it's been rough out there, man. Like social media is become really polarizing when it comes to parents. And it's not single moms, single dads, but I mean, like there are accounts where it's like husband and wife are sparring and they're using Instagram and Facebook as like the battleground and like, it's almost like, well, I got more likes on mine. Apparently I'm the winner. Like when did social media become the validation point for our marriages?
Yeah.
I feel that if you're posting something on social media, you're giving people a ticket to the show. So as much as I am transparent with a lot of my personal life, love life and parenting. I do keep it to a certain extent where now that my daughter's getting older, I don't post her as much because she's like, I'm like, baby, take a picture of mommy. She's like, nah. She's a teenager. She's in high school. She's like, but as you said, parenting, going out with each other. I feel everybody on social media is a keyboard warrior and they like to instigate things. But it's awesome that you're kind of have an objective to highlight parents in a positive way, and you're adding humor while not trying to throw wood into the fire, which is phenomenal. That's
So,
Thank
cool.
you.
so
And
Evan,
it is a weird balance, I will say, because like I think there's something to be said about authenticity. So like, I mean, I appreciate couples who keep it real and like not necessarily air their dirty laundry and like make it a competition if they both have social media accounts, but like social media is a tremendous highlight reel. I deleted my Facebook probably 10 years ago because I became self-aware that whenever I went on it, I was in a rough patch. I was in between jobs. I was like, this is doing nothing good for me because all I'm seeing is trips and house purchases and new babies and fantastic job and world that I don't have right now. And it took me really, really low. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, and I haven't looked back. The only thing I missed was like a couple people once in a while say, didn't you see I posted on Facebook? But it's like everybody who I need to hear from, I'll
they
hear
have
from
your phone number.
eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a weird thing. It's like you want to see real, you want to see raw, but yeah, you don't want to just see it become a competition or a divide between a husband and a wife either. So I try and really keep that in mind with things I post, and even wording some things if I'm, creating some content, like making sure that it's not just putting a bad light on wives or moms or working moms or stay-at-home moms or working dads. It's just, I try and stay as conscious. I'm not perfect. I mean, there's been some things, my wife is like, really? Like you posted that? Like that's dumb.
So you said your wife, so she has an account too, and share a little bit how you both have these platforms.
She's not, she has her personal account, and like she sees everything I post every once in a while. I don't think she keeps tabs on it as much as I would like to think she does, but it seems like anytime I post something that is not funny or belittling to, a working mom or something like that, like I'll hear about it. I was like, I thought you weren't really a fan of the viral dad stuff, but no, she doesn't. She's not a content creator yet. I think she's way more naturally funny. I wish she had her own TikTok channel because she's one of the funniest people I've ever met. And I think she could get a huge following, but maybe one day.
So Evan, let's back up a little bit. So, your whole journey began as a stay-at-home dad. So how did that happen? And was that a choice? Just walk us through that journey.
Yeah. I mean, it was a decision we jointly made together. It was not a planned route for my life. I didn't grow up aiming to be a stay-at-home dad. We were both working young professionals. All I ever heard about before I had kids was how expensive they are, and college and diapers and food. And, I'm not necessarily a doctor or a lawyer. I wasn't raking it in. I worked in the beverage industry and, hopped around here and there. And I just assumed we both had to be working parents. We both didn't really feel comfortable with putting our newborn into a daycare system, at like a 6-month age. And our common ground, we decided, was to try a nanny, which was a nightmare of an experience going down that road. It was interview after interview of people that were on paper looked great, and then you let them into your house and you're like, oh my God, this is the person who's going to be holding my baby or, teaching them how to walk. And it was just a kind of surreal, but we went down it. We couldn't find someone at the last minute. We had a personal referral of a woman who was leaving a family. She came to us literally the week before my wife went back to work. And she was with us for about a month before she gave us notice that the family she left essentially threw a bunch of money at her and pulled her back. And she gave us 1 week notice to figure it out. And that's not a long time. But we weighed the pros and cons of everything. My wife's, a very accomplished woman in her field, and her career was skyrocketing. And she works for school district. I was just a sales guy essentially for a bottled water company. And it was much easier for me to hit the pause button than it would be for her to kind of leave that role that she had just gotten into. It wasn't easy. I mean, I love kids. I grew up with younger brothers. I grew up changing diapers. I babysat kids. I was even a mother's helper at one point, traveling with the family and helping out them.
Wow.
And the dad, actually, this was when I was, 13 years old. So a long time ago, he was actually a stay-at-home dad. And it's kind of funny because that was when you didn't know stay-at-home dad was even a thing back 20 years ago. It was like such a rare thing, but I don't know. We weighed the pros and cons. She really encouraged it. I love kids. It was very hard for me to let go of the industry I was in. I put a lot of time and energy to that. And we just kind of dove into the unexpected of that world and made the decision that I would be a stay-at-home dad. And here we are 5 years later.
And how old are your kids?
They are 4 and 5. They are 15 months apart. And
whoa, that's like twins.
Yeah, pretty close.
What do they call those, Irish twins?
Yeah, they call it Irish twins.
Just about. So it feels like it sometimes. My younger one's bigger than my older one, so I get.
Are they both boys or girls?
Boys, 2 boys.
Okay.
So very physical, very loud, very messy, like all kids. I mean.
Will you guys have more?
No.
No. And so when you say no, is it because you are a stay-at-home dad and so you know how much work that plays into it, or you just like, we're good with 2?
We're good with 2. I mean, we had them closer than we were expecting, and having them that close, my wife getting pregnant as soon as she did when we had a baby still, it kind of rocked our world. We went just 2 years that were a blur, raising 2 babies under 2 years old. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Oh
I can't. And here's the thing, like the whole kid thing anyway. Like I think there's a big problem when you go from man on man to zone defense when it comes to kids. So that's an issue unto itself. But just like that, like here's my other thought on this one. And I apologize to all of the parents. I said this in the past that have more than one, but there's a severe level of brain damage that happens when you do that, because for you to like sign up for that again.
Brain damage to who? The parent?
You have to have like some form of amnesia or brain disorder to be like, I want to do that again.
I
love my daughter more than anything in the whole wide world, but I was like, who the hell does this twice?
You know what? There's a lot of people out there who do it and they love it. Listen, I'm a twin. I have a twin brother, and my twin brother is having twins. And they have a soon-to-be 2-year-old. So they're going to have 3 boys under the age of 3 very soon. And I just, in my mind, I'm just like, how?
Just hearing that, I want to go get a vasectomy.
And she also has a 16-year-old from her first marriage, girl. So in my mind, I'm like, God bless her. God, the Lord bless her. But listen, there are people who are made for it. And so what I want to know is, as a stay-at-home dad, like, phenomenal. But what is your mind going through now? Like, are your kids in school? Because now you have to do homeschooling. What's that like?
So my life took a big 180. So this was supposed to be the year where both my kids were going to be in school 5 days a week.
Yeah. You had at least 4 hours of a break.
Yeah. And I'm trying not to put my headspace there because I'll get real dark and depressed if I think about how it just completely took a nosedive. But yeah, I mean, my son, both of them were only in preschool 2 days a week for 3 hours before that. So like I was with them a long time, a lot of those days. And I was like, okay, this will be the year, full-time preschool, full-time kindergarten. I can reinvest in myself. I can dive into these projects I've started more, thoroughly. And now it's like, nope, you're going to be homeschooling and digital learning, both of them. So it's, what can you do? Like I can't cry about it. I can't whine about it. It's just, they need me in this time and I'm going to be there for them. So,
I think I love the fact that you said that, Evan, but I do want to a certain extent, I kind of want to at least give people a voice out there that deserve one. Cause this sucks, right?
This is tough.
I am so impressed with teachers, and I didn't realize it until I was trying to teach a 5-year-old math that I think I could do, I'm like, how the hell did this, why is this so difficult? But
I feel like 2020 is a very humbling year for all of us.
Yeah.
No
to
doubt.
anything, to just being more thankful for essential workers, right? And then you
Yeah.
think about teachers, people who have huge roles and they're not being credited for. So, you know,
No, and we've got a pandemic of a virus right now, but I'm a little concerned that we're going to have an epidemic of idiots in the coming, years, because we've got a bunch of parents trying to homeschool our kids and we have no credentials to do that.
yeah, it's scary. How are you doing it? Have they started virtual school, or I don't know where you're located at, but
Yeah, we're in Illinois. We're just
okay.
outside Chicago, so it's all. At first, it was an option to do hybrid or e-learning, and then they pulled the e-learning option. Well, they pulled the hybrid option, in-person option out, and now it's all digital. And I'm actually very close to the world. My wife does communications and PR for an elementary school district, so
Okay.
she has been in the thick of all this, and I think has one of the hardest jobs out there because she's the one who's having to communicate these
Ugh.
ever-changing plans and the strategy to approach it to parents. And she's not, you can't please everybody, one way or another. The teachers are going to be upset that they have to go in, or the parents are going to be upset that their kids have to be home, and it's a mess. But right now it's all e-learning, and we're just going to take that 1 month at a time, and we'll see how that goes.
One day at a time.
Yeah, one day,
1
don't-
minute.
at a time.
I know, we don't
Did
know.
Did you see The Incredibles 2?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, when did they change math? Like, math is math. Like,
Yeah.
So
I had
do you-
one of the most successful tweets I ever made was welcome to 2020. If you don't already have anxiety disorder, one will be assigned to you shortly. And
yeah,
that was
seriously.
back in March, and man, it's rang true, because people who had their shit together are, well, I thought I did, but this is the first year I'm feeling stress and depression and stuff that I've never felt before. So
Yeah, there's a lot of
Godspeed to everybody
roadblocks.
out there trying to figure it out.
it was funny. I was on a podcast, a different one earlier today, with a psychologist who really talks about anxiety disorders and a lot of things that he focuses on. He's like, this just throws the handbook right out the window, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of what psychologists are, when you have anxiety disorders, when you have these fear-based disorders, they try to get you to face your fear.
Mhm.
Well, you can't do that now. Like, my fear is I don't want to get sick and die, and I'm afraid of crowds. So, in the normal world, go out in crowds. Like, well, you can't tell people to do that.
Mhm.
So it's a strange. Well, I want to transition a little bit, because you've got some other projects outside of Viral Dads that you've been working on that I'm really excited for our listeners to hear about. So let's talk about the hat that you're wearing.
Be a good human today. So that's the mantra. That was our little family motto. It all started with my wife. Every day when she was leaving to go to work and I was home with the babies, she would just say, be good humans today, be good humans today. And it really stuck with me, just hearing that every day, as just like a way to live almost, and something that is important to our family and something we want to teach our kids over everything. Is just be a good person, be kind, love people, have empathy. And so when my son started preschool, I kind of wanted him to take that with him, even though he couldn't read. It was a message that I felt he's going out into the wild and he's going to be interacting with other people. And so I made it a little patch. It looked just like this. And I ironed it onto his backpack. And immediately teachers noticed it, parents noticed it, strangers noticed it, and just gave it some kudos and thumbs up and asked where they could get one. And at that time, it was just a patch. It wasn't anything. So I had some stickers made, and I started just carrying them around in my pocket with the phrase, be a good human today. And whenever anybody, noticed it or acknowledged it, I just started handing them a sticker. Stickers led to people asking for shirts. And I thought, what if we sold some shirts? If one person wants it, if some people kind of are digging what we're doing and what it's about, let's just give them an option to wear it and spread that message as far as they can. And one thing led to another. I've never launched an e-commerce store. I've never started a clothing brand. I just opened up a P.O. box to let people mail in for free stickers. We say kindness is free, so is our stickers. And we've sent out thousands of stickers across the United States and even, abroad around the world. And it's just kind of a message that we're trying to pass on. Still figuring out the whole world of branding and all that, but it's been cool to see.
When did you launch or start that patch?
That's
Because it's
about,
interesting. I know 2020 is like, we need it. We need that freaking tattoos on people.
yeah,
But
seriously.
now, like, did you start this before 2020?
Yeah, this was back 2 years ago. So
Okay.
when my
Wow.
son started preschool, he did 2 years of preschool. So we started it back then. We trademarked it. It's been going through the whole process currently. But it was never, I don't know. It's like I call it passion projects because I don't look at them as businesses. I mean, maybe I should, but they're all things that I just believe in and want to put out to the world, and I enjoy working on them. But it's been cool to see it grow organically over the last couple of years. And yes, 2020 for sure, with everything going on. I mean, we could all use a little reminder just to be good to one another and be kind and love on each other.
Can we dig a little deeper and figure out you being not a single dad, but you being a dad, a stay-at-home dad, and then this message that means so much to you? What in your childhood, how was a father figure to you, if you don't mind me asking, and how are you implementing that with your kids, being a stay-at-home dad, and with this message?
That's why we have a woman on the show, because I would never ask that question.
I
I'm
love
just
it.
like,
And
there has to be more meaning to it, because you are obviously, you own being a man, a dad. Like, you're like, we can still be masculine, but still be compassionate and be good people, and not just be, testosterone and F this and name calling and all this other stuff, because there's a lot of pages that are out there and they own that and they like to bash, and they like that attention from other audiences or different sexes, where they get that their page goes up for that. But you are like neutral. You're like, no, what's the whole point? Like, I can still be a dad. I'm okay with being at home too, and I'm okay with saying we just can be good people. So I want to know, like,
Tell us about your childhood.
yeah, I want to know who's your dad and who your parents, like, because that eventually, I feel like we were talking about this earlier, our kids turn out to be who we are, right? And if they see something like, so yes, go for it.
well, how much time do we have, first
We
of
have
all?
time.
Okay, so
Just
cut me off
give
because
us, yeah, I'll cut you off if it gets.
I can go on. I have zero plans tonight. My kids are gone. My wife's gone. So, but I'm around toddlers all day, every day. When I talk to an adult and talk about being a father, I can
Aw.
get going.
You're like, please just engage with me.
Well, we have followers who have a short attention span, so know that. But give us like some insight on what your dad was like and what you saw and how you're implementing that as a stay-at-home dad, and with your long-term message of being a good person.
Yeah, it's so my parents were divorced. And that was at the time I was 12, 13 years old. I didn't think it had a very big role in my life. I'm trying to be authentic as possible, so I'll try to keep it real and raw, just like I promised. But I grew up and they hit a hard patch, not initially, but through my 10, 11, 12, 13, there was a lot of fighting in the house I grew up in. And by the time they told me when I was 13 they were getting a divorce, I was so excited. I was like, hell yeah, I don't have to hear them fight anymore. I don't have to wake up to them screaming. I don't have to just have that noise. And I celebrated it. Just as the kid that I was going through puberty myself. I actually had to switch schools at the same time. So I had a whole bunch going on. But all to say, at the time, I didn't think it was a very big deal to me. But as I got older and I started dating my wife, I realized just how big of an impact growing up with that had on me. And my wife was a friend before we were dating, and we dated for 6 years before I proposed to her, because I was dragging my feet, and it was all because of inner fears I had about failing my own marriage, and just nothing to do with her, but just being scared that I would actually end up like my dad. And I'd love to say, I love my dad. We have a great relationship. Yeah. I'm not going to dog him at all. Like, we're better than we ever have been. But through the divorce and having him out of my life at, those teenage years, it was my mom primarily who raised me. And she raised my brother. She raised my sister. We saw my dad on weekends. But there was a lot that, little things, like for school dances, like my friends wearing their dad's tie. Like, I would just get jealous of that. Like, I would just be like, oh, man, I wish I had, and my dad was there. It's not like he was uninvolved. Like I saw him when I saw him, but I just felt like, man, I wish like he would have tied my tie, or I wish I could have gone in his closet before I left. But just weird little things like that would get to me. And I don't know, when I started thinking about getting married, there was a big fear. My number one goal was to never put a woman through what I saw my mom go through. And
There we
just a
go.
fear. Yeah. So it was like, I had this fear of like, and subconsciously I thought like, maybe if I never like committed, like I could never fail. And my mom actually helped. She's been my therapist for my entire life and still is. You know, she's guided me through so many challenging times, but she's like, you can't live in fear. And like, you know, all you can do is put your best foot forward every day and let life happen. But I just had this tremendous overarching fear of like, nobody gets married thinking they're going to split.
Right.
You know, everybody gets married thinking it's going to be forever. And I was like, I want to marry my wife and have that be forever. But I was just so scared of the unknown of like, what twists and turns life's going to throw at us, that I dragged my feet, you know, and I probably would have lost her if I did it any longer. But, you know, we've been happily married. We got 8 years coming up on September 1st. So
happy
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I know it's single parents daily, but shout out to all you single parents, because I've witnessed just what it takes. And y'all are some superheroes, because whenever I have I'm home with my boys, but like, when there's days when my wife has a late meeting, or if she goes out with her girls and, you know, or a weekend away, something like that's a lot of work. And she comes home and I'm like, I'm so lucky to have you.
Aww.
So it gives me a taste of single parenthood, and man, you guys are awesome.
It's so interesting about what you're saying is you definitely have an amazing backstory, and you can empathize with a single parent more than ever, because you were raised by a single mother, a phenomenal single mother who, you know, held the fort up. But do you think that's reflected on you being a stay-at-home dad, as far as like, you know what, I'm okay with this because I saw my mom do it. I know what it takes. And I also like honor a strong woman who's trying to own her, you know, job title. Do you feel like that reflected? Because especially you said that you had a good relationship with your dad. You know, I had daddy's girl over here, but my dad was a shitty husband. Shitty husband. He was horrible. I'm like, even before he passed away a couple of years ago, I would tell him all the time. He's like, I miss your mom. I'm like, you put yourself in this position, homie. I'm like, you like suck. You're like a jerk. And he's like, I know I am, huh? And I'm like, you know, so as a woman, you know, it's really nice to see a man who kind of like can see a single parent, you know, go through the motions. Cause I think that I have friends who have been raised by single moms, right? Or a single dad, and their perspective on life and their actions on how they move forward as an adult and as a parent is remarkably affected by how they were raised. And so it's cool to see that. And I knew it was something to it. I was like, he's too cool. He's too cool. And it's because you had a single parent raise you, and that's why you can empathize with all of it. And you have an amazing wife, you know, and you honor that. And that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, one of our...
I'm all like, that's so cute.
No. I mean, one thing I've always been is open and honest. Like, I really, amongst friends in my circle, it's like I never just want to come off like our marriage is peachy keen, because it's not. And I think it's a false reality to just portray life as easy. I get scared when I have friends who get married before they've even had their first argument. Like, if there's one thing my wife Jen and I have had, it's like we have been through the lowest of lows, but we've done it together. And like, we know every challenge that's been thrown at us, we see it through. So it's like, if I lost my job, she was by my side. You know, if I have a crazy idea, she's by my side. If she wants to take this job, I'm by her side. You know, it's like, just that gives you so much strength as a couple to know, like, you're not going to run for the hills the second shit hits the fan, and it will hit the fan. Like, in some way, shape, or form, life has a way of just being shitty at times, and like, you got to have somebody that's kind of ride or die. So. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
shout out to my mom. I mean, she was amazing. She still is amazing, very involved. I see her about once a week. She moved down from Wisconsin, so I take the boys up to grandma's house, and, you know, I pick her brain on life and love and kids and parenting, you know, almost weekly. And my dad too. You know, I try and absorb all the good traits from all of them as well. And it's been an interesting journey. I've definitely seen how having split parents has affected me as an adult, and I've seen how you know, vice versa on my wife's side, her parents are still together and how that's affected her as well.
So what's next for you, Evan? You've got, you know, you're teaching in the age of COVID, but eventually that's going to go away and kids will go back to school. So what's next? How does Viral Dads keep going, and what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh my God. You know, you sound like my wife. Like
She actually called me before this interview, said, "Hey, could you ask these questions?
What's his plan?
man,
I need a 5-year business plan from you."
it's no joke. It's like, that's been a stressor of mine, is like, what do I do next? Like, I have this chapter of being a stay-at-home dad where I've created some small passion projects. I know it's going to come to an end. My kids are going to be, you know, one day, hopefully in full-time school. And I have an industry that, yeah, I could jump back into, but it was not good for me mentally. It wasn't what I want to do from a traveling perspective. I was gone a lot. And I kind of have this blank canvas, you know, and blank pages in my next chapter that I got to figure out where that's what I want to fill it with. And that's an amazing problem to have. I sound pretty, you know, like I don't want to take for granted that I have that opportunity, because a lot of people don't, but to put an answer to it, I wish I could, because I'd be sleeping a lot better if I had an answer. I would love to do what I'm doing now with the things that excite me from a passion standpoint for the rest of my life. But, you know, there's got to be there's bills to pay, there's college funds to save for, and I have to kind of take them more seriously from an income standpoint and see how can I turn things I care about, but can also financially support me and my family for years to come. And if I can make that happen, I'll be a very happy man. So that's the goal, is to try and turn these into something.
So like almost, I think like a month after my daughter was born, I met with my financial planner, and I kind of had this idea in the back of my mind how much I'd have to save for college. And then he told me, and at the time it was like, if she wanted to go to a state college in California, my monthly contribution to her 529 was like $800. And yeah, exactly. Right. And I remember looking at it like the way, you know, he said like $800 a month. And I think I heard like $800 a year. And I'm like, oh, that's less than I thought. And then I'm like, oh no, wait, you just said a month.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's crazy.
It's crazy. So yeah, that's the challenge, right? We live in a world where the economics of things really kind of dictate how we do that. But I still kind of always come back to the idea that, you know, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. So it's the challenge of how do we take those passion projects and apply some real, you know, business acumen to them and let them be the driving fiscal force in our lives moving forward. But it sounds like you're onto some pretty cool things here.
Yeah, I've got some momentum. I'm trying to just ride the lightning, so to speak, and you know, more than the followers that have come from Viral Dads and the stickers we've sent around the world. I mean, it just feels cool, like from a one-on-one standpoint, to like connect with other dads or get a DM from a dad who says like, this made me laugh and I had a really crummy day. Like, thank you. Yeah. Or I'm thinking about being a stay-at-home dad. Like, what advice do you have? Like, that's what drives me. That's what I get excited about. It is really cool to see followers and to see the posts go viral, but like, I'm in it to help people. I want people to get value from it. I want people to learn from my mistakes or just relate to my story in one way, shape, or form, and just be like, you know what, like, he's going through it too. I can relate to that. That's pretty cool. I feel less sad, or, you know, like he's not the only one whose kids won't go to bed right away. Or,
well, you know what, Evan, we're all stay-at-home dads right now. So you've kind of established a beachhead here. So I think you're kind of, you know, you might be the predecessor for all of this and have a lot of information that can help a lot of people understand, like, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you manage a schedule as a stay-at-home parent.
I feel like, Evan, too, it would be a great project as a dad to help even single moms, because let's say if I'm raising 2 boys and I don't have a male figure in my son's life, you just showcasing, saying, hey, maybe doing like an easy little workshop saying, because of the void, first, not having a dad around as much growing up, being a stay-at-home dad and having 2 boys, and then the fact that you're having like a little passion project. A lot of women go through this identity you know, insecurity. Well, yeah, identity crisis. Even dads, there's other stay-at-home dads, you know, when you're like, okay, what's next, right? And I think that you giving that, you know, that light to someone else saying, hey, this is what I'm working on. It's a little sticker project, starts off with hats, starts off with shirt, and then it's still aligned with what you want to do and what you're projecting to your kids, which is be a good human, right? So what are you teaching your kids that maybe you can teach us grown adults?
Oh man, that's a big question. But to what you're saying, I haven't always been as open as I have been in the past year. Just lately, not to divert the question either, but I've never been more motivated to share my story, and it took me 4 years to get here because I'm a private person. I'm self-conscious, I'm insecure, but like I watched a documentary recently, and it was actually called Dads. It's a new one that was great, and they had a spotlight on a dad, and he was a vlogger, and he just said like, staying private doesn't help anybody. Mm-mm. And that motivated, and that stuck with me because I'm trying here to motivate dads and parents, and I'm doing no good by keeping my story a secret. And I'm not saying my story is the only way, but like I hope, and I've learned that some people find value in what I have to say. So the more I hear people benefiting from it, the more I want to share it. Mm-hmm. And whether that's talking to dads, or whether that's talking to single moms, or whether that's talking to people who have a crazy idea that they want to get off the ground, like I'm here. Like I'm here for it. Like let's go. Like I'm still winging it as a parent. I'm winging it as a entrepreneur, if you want to call it that. But like
we're all winging it. I promise you that.
Go.
Even if
Yeah, there's no handbook for this. There's no pamphlet.
There isn't.
Not at all.
I had a friend I asked early on when I found out I was going to be a father, and I always looked at this person as a great father, and I said, "How do you be a good father?" And he said, "You choose to be." Mm-hmm. And then the rest you just make up as you go along. Like
it's like being a good human. You choose to be a good human. We wake up every day and we're like, choose happy, right?
Choose happy. It's a
people
choice.
People ask me all the time as far as anything that has to do with working out. How do you find your motivation? I'm like, it's discipline. You just choose, you decide. It's all perspective. You're like, today it's gonna be an amazing day today. We're gonna have an amazing interview, and the weather's gonna be perfect and sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell. It's funny. My wife and I, we are opposites in that way. I can be an optimist to like a fault, and any problem that she's got or issue or stress, I always try and find that silver lining, and it is like the last thing she wants to hear. And I'm like, I'm still working on like just allowing her to feel and not painting my little brush that helps me, because like she needs to cope differently. But yeah, I look on the bright side as much as I can, but I mean, you can't. There's just some stuff that sucks, and you should allow yourself to feel that as well.
Well, and look, I think that we're at a time in our life, we are at that once in a generation moment where things are bad, and the economy's not going to recover overnight. People are still getting sick. We have no idea what the global impact on this is. We have no idea what the long-term health ramifications are of this disease, how it's going to rear its ugly head. So it's okay to recognize that things suck right now, and it ain't going to get better tomorrow. And I think that, rather than everything's going to be okay, just allowing ourselves to recognize that things are going to be a little challenging for a while allows us to reframe our perspective and then move forward accordingly.
Dumb analogy that I always said, I had a friend who young guy, got a brain tumor, best friend of mine. And then the girlfriend he was dating left him shortly after his rehab. And he just went in a really dark spot. And it was, I don't even know if this, but I always said the shit smells the worst when you're stepping in it. And I said, you are in some shit right now, and it's not going to always smell like that. Like, let yourself realize how shitty this is, but like just sitting in it, just smelling it, that's not going to get you out of it. And that's kind of where we are as a country, I guess, or just this day and age. I mean, things are shitty, but you got to just realize and hope and take it one day at a time that it's going to get better. Like, it's not going to be like this forever. And that's kind of my advice there, is like, allow yourself to feel, but don't dwell in it as longer than you have to.
As Rocky said, it's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
There you go.
I thought that was Muhammad Ali. Get knocked down, can get back up, or who knows. But as
they're all boxers,
they're all fighters. They're all fighters for a reason. I want to go back to the choose to be happy and be a good human. What are your next moves with that? Because I feel like that could be something really big as far as us wanting that, needing that, and then some, especially with the world that we're in now, and you being a stay-at-home dad, I think you have a mic in your mouth right now in front of you saying, and we're like, what's next? Please give us more. Because we want a silver lining with 2020 right now.
Screw that. I just want a hat.
I got you.
Where can I buy a hat?
Yeah, goodhumantoday.com. They got some hats up there. So this one's actually sold out, but I'm working on getting it restocked.
And you have hats, do you have apparel?
Shirts, coffee mugs, just little things that I thought could be a way to spread the message. We throw the logo on it. But what's next, I think, is taking it to the next level. I haven't spent a penny on advertising the book I wrote, the Viral Dads, the Good Human Today line. It's all been organic reach. It's not skyrocketing in popularity by any means, but it's time for me to really treat it like a business, so to speak, and really crunch some numbers and do some testing about like, what if we did market it, or what if we aligned ourselves with some, influencers to help spread the word and not just like use our free stickers to get the word out. But I don't know. I'm hesitant, one, because we're a single income family, and like everything we've done, I've bootstrapped. All my ideas are done on bare minimum funding and money and things I can do from the palm of my hand or on a laptop. So, we don't have piles of cash just laying around to throw at a Facebook advertising campaign. I wish we did, but everything's kind of been organic and bootstrapping from here on out. So the next step would be kind of trying to get the word out more traditionally.
And you have a book, you said.
I do, yeah. So I self-published a children's ABC book as well. That was my first little stay-at-home dad passion project that I put in.
Cool.
We'll definitely put that in the show notes.
Yeah, so it's called H is for Happy. It's a emoji ABC book about feelings, and I wrote that when my son was about a year and a half old. He started to recognize the little smiley emojis on my phone when I was texting my wife and texting friends, and I just had kind of a light bulb. I was like, what if I could use emojis as a tool to teach him about his feelings and, how to put words to what he's going through? Because I saw firsthand with two little boys, like when they don't know how to say what they're feeling, it's ugly. That's why they scream. That's why they melt down. It's because they really can't put words to it. So I just had this little idea, Google, YouTube, self-publishing, dove right in, never done a book. Cool. And it's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but shout out to Dr. Seuss and any children's book author, because it seems such a simple thing to do, but man, it's not. And it's been cool to see that out there as well. So it's helped my boys. And if your kids are, 2, 3, 4, even 5, and you want to help them kind of just learn to verbalize what they're feeling, it's kind of a good icebreaker. So it's on Amazon exclusively.
We will definitely put that in the show notes.
H is for happy. My daughter, she would do sign language, and it was really cool being able to have her communicate in some sort of way where I was like, this is so cool. I can't wait till she could talk. And then that
yeah, we did more.
Like, no, stop talking.
All done. Yeah, we did that too. That helped a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cute to see kids communicate. Did you have? So what you said, emojis? Were you giving them iPads or iPhones and like, tell me how you feel? And then
it was lit. He was like 18-month-old-ish about, and like just me being on my phone, probably texting my wife like an SOS to come home. She was working 2 blocks down, and like I just noticed him when I would have those, his eyes would kind of lock into them. So we didn't give them tablets. They didn't have phones or anything at that age, but it was literally him noticing when I was on my phone and sending an emoji. I'm a big emoji person. I love them just, as is. And I noticed he was drawn to them. And I was like, what if I printed it out on a big piece of paper? And I just started like teaching him with those. And then one thing led to another. I made it into a little picture book. And
that's awesome. How old are you, Evan?
I will be 38 in October, I think, maybe 37. Right. I try. I lose track. I'm always within 1 or 2 years, but
this is a language I need to learn how to speak.
Emoji.
I can't figure it out. I'm like that.
I'm emoji queen. Yeah. And meme queen. Like I can literally have a whole conversation with you sending GIFs or memes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can go back and forth, and I'm like, it could be a storytelling. Like.
Yeah, and people send me those. I'm like, I have no idea what that means.
I'm gonna start teaching you now that we start texting. I'm just gonna start sending you random GIFs and memes, and you're gonna be like, oh shit.
Yeah, like I asked. Like I'm gonna go back to H is for happy. That's like, I gotta start at the basics.
Can you send me emails on that GIFs?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's amazing. As your wife, you said she's a little bit more logical as someone who's running districts with schools and stuff. Did you ever take an Enneagram test? Because it's interesting how you're saying like you're polar opposites. Only reason why is because he seems like my boyfriend's an artist. And so he is very, he always sees the silver lining to things like you. And he's always so positive. I can say the shittiest thing and it's literally a shittiest thing happening. And he's like, but at least this is da da da. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And it's funny. Sometimes I don't want to hear it, but I am ENFJ, which is extrovert. I forgot what forgot what N stands for. Then it's F is, I forgot that too, but I know it's J is judgmental. And then
So you're a judgmental extrovert.
Yes. A New
You walked into that one.
A New Yorkan, Puerto Rican, judgmental extrovert. But also he is P, which is perceives like just positive things. And he's super optimistic about things. And although I am too, he is more of, sees the best in people. And I am like East Coast girl, like, they have to prove to me that I can trust them versus, I trust them until they do something wrong. So I'm just wondering if you guys have ever taken that test, or
I think it's the Briggs-Myers, right? Isn't that also?
That's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's similar. I couldn't tell you what my 4 letters are or my wife's. We did it many, many years ago, but I know they're not the same. That's for sure.
And they change over time. They can.
They absolutely do. Yeah.
Love languages change too.
I'm
just going to say we did love languages, and love languages was eye-opening to us. So.
I hate the love languages.
Really? Why?
With a passion.
Why do you hate it? I want to hear. Why do you hate it?
Why? Evan, sorry, you get to be party to this.
Do you like it? The love language? I feel like it helps people.
It was before we got married. Somebody gave it to us. We both read it, and I will say before you hate on it, like it did open our eyes to that we both receive love differently. And that was just the concept that like, it took the book to acknowledge that in both of us, that I was thinking, oh, I'll do this for her. And that'll make her happy. But, I was like, oh, I'll anticipate her needs and clean the house, yada, yada, yada. Or like, make sure everything's clean when she gets home. But like that she's quality time. So like, it didn't matter if I cleaned the whole house. If I was on my phone all night when we were just trying to wind down and watch a movie, like, she needed me there with her present. And like, it was just, it opened my eyes to that concept that like, you might think you're doing something for your partner that it's not even hitting their wavelength, and they're looking for something that's might even be a lot less work. So, all right, now go bash it into the ground.
I know, I want to hear.
So my big issue
over here.
Yeah, my big issue with the love languages book is that I think that it takes away the element of healthy communication in the beginning of a relationship. And going after my divorce, going on a lot of dates, I can't tell you the number of times I'd be on a date and someone would be like, "What are your love languages?" And I'm like, "Leave me the fuck alone. That's my love language." But I'm like, what happened to letting a relationship evolve naturally, where we can say, this is how this is what I like. This is how I, do things.
Is that what you say? Like, you just said, this is what I want to say. So what do you say? Like, I want to hear this.
What do I say when someone asks me that?
I'm definitely digging.
I don't answer it. I say, like, I've read the book, and I think the problem is that we live in a society where people like to really condense things down into like talking points, right? It's like, I want to sum up an entire life philosophy in a meme. And the organic growing nature of healthy communication within a relationship should allow that stuff to grow naturally versus someone making a judgment decision on a relationship potential based off of a book that says how I give and receive love.
I agree with you. You're absolutely right. But I also feel like it's a form of a tool. Don't you agree? It's a stepping tool, and it's like resources. It's like, okay, and you get bits and pieces of everything. It's like a sibling telling you, hey, watch out for that person because they went through that. And then another person giving you advice. It's a form of a tool.
But it's an interesting, it's a tool if used properly, but now we have people who are not even pursuing relationships because there's a love language mismatch. And you talk about being somewhat opposite with your wife, right? Like, these are communications that need to happen as a relationship evolves, not saying, well, I'm acts of service and your quality time, It's a pleasure meeting you. Bada bing, bada boom, I'm out. It's, everything is
But
so
if people do that, then you shouldn't be in a relationship with them anyways.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I can see why. I don't think
Evan's
it's a first date type of like label yourself. I mean, we found value in it after we dated for 6.5 years. Like we
Yeah.
really just had it as a place to look at our relationship and how we're communicating love to each other at that stage. But yeah, I don't know if it's first date, what are you?
second date.
Like, I do think organically couples and people need to figure that out, just as I think they need to go through the trenches when you date and not rush into marriage if you've never fought or like been tested or had something blow up in your face. I think you got to go through some trials with each other, and you got to learn, you got to figure each other out, and just slapping a label that, hey, I'm physical touch, let's do this, that's your love language is not the right way to go about it.
Take your clothes off. Let's go.
What are
Which
you
I
going to
think
teach?
90% of men are probably physical touch as well.
Touch,
so.
yeah.
Totally.
What are you going to teach your boys, knowing that you're a stay-at-home dad, and eventually as they grow up and they eventually that's something that they want to do because they saw you being there for them, or another kid is going to be like, I don't want that, da 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 da. So how are you going to go into that as being a role model to them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do my little part here to break the stigma. I think even within a recent couple years, like the image of a dad and a stay-at-home dad has changed tremendously. And like I said, I'm trying to share my story to play a part in changing what that looks like. And, not all dads are lazy. Not all dads are incapable. Not all dads are just this corporate guy who's never around his kids and, this and that. Like, I'm just trying to put a different image and a different face on it and encourage dads to consider it. I think a lot of dads counted out way too early. I did. It took a lot of convincing for even me to get to saying yes. And that's one thing I tell dads I talk to is don't say no too quick. I mean, on paper, the idea of it sounds crazy. Like, hey, I'm going to just give up my paycheck and my job and just be home with babies all day. Like, you don't really, that doesn't sound appealing to anybody, but it has been the best decision we've made for our family in our circumstances. Everybody's different, but I tell guys, like, consider it. Don't count it out too quickly, because I think there's a lot of men who would be great at it who are miserable at their job, or a lot of women who are miserable staying at home who could be killing it, chasing a career that they've always wanted to. And you got to communicate that with each other. You got to talk that through. Every situation's different, and this was the decision we made, and it's been awesome. And I'm trying to encourage more men to consider it. But I had a lot of stress actually earlier this year, not to keep going, but I had this fear of like my kids when they were older and teenagers asking me what I do for a living. And the fact that I didn't have an answer right now to that question really weighed on me, and kept me up for some reason. And just, I wanted the answer to that question to be something noble, something that they respected, that they understood. And I don't know, like, not being at this transitional point where I'm just a stay-at-home dad now. I've got some projects kind of taking off, but like, I don't know what 5 years from now looks like. It kept me up at night, and I actually tried therapy for the first time this year, and it's been amazing to talk through that. And I've come really to a better place with that.
Good job on therapy.
Personally.
That's awesome.
So I'm also a big advocate of talking and sharing your struggle, and don't keep your fears and your anxieties inside. It really is therapeutic to get those out. But I want my kids to grow up to be good people above anything else. I want to foster them to become who they're supposed to be. I don't want to push an image I have of my child onto them. I want them to be the best versions of themselves. I want them to just be a good human overall. Academically, that's important, but I don't want that to outweigh just being kind to individuals, being accepting to others that are different from you, and just kind of set that example and lead by example for them. And if they can kind of absorb that from me, that'll be a win, and I'll be happy. And that's something my mom taught me, and I'm so grateful for her, is that she never shoved anything down my throat, but she's been the most influential person to me. And that alleviated a lot of stress on me as a parent, to always do the right thing, always say the right thing, always do the right steps, because as long as I'm doing what I believe is right and living true to myself and my beliefs, my kids are going to absorb that. And I believe I'm a good person. I believe, I'm setting good examples on my walk day to day. So if nothing else, they're going to hopefully absorb a little bit of that. And you never know, like they may turn out to be something completely different, and that terrifies me. But that's what I'm shooting for. And I actually listened to a podcast about Walt Disney, and it was actually pretty eye-opening. But Walt Disney's dad, I don't know if you knew this, Elias Disney, was a tragically failed entrepreneur, and he failed at multiple different businesses over and over. And he actually told Walt that movies were a waste of time and that they're not entertainment. And I just, for some reason, that stuck with me, because Walt Disney obviously became one of the most successful businessmen ever in what he created. And his dad was on paper a failure, but something in that household was instilled in Walt to keep going, maybe seeing his dad, how he navigated failure, just day to day, moving the family, trying different things, even telling him not to go down a certain route, but still persevering. It was kind of an interesting way to look at being a father and success.
Well, Evan, I think one thing I'm seeing from you, and whether you choose to use this or not, is that if someone asks you what you do, I would say a leader. And this is a movement, right? And right now the thing is again, we're all single parents, right? So your value above the most important job that you have of being a father is really understanding what that looks like. Companies are not sending people back to the office. They're recognizing like, okay, I can put my insurance underwriters in their living room and they're just as productive, if not more, than covering the cost of giant corporate overhead. So I think stay-at-home father or stay-at-home mom is an evolutionary thing that we're seeing right now, where I can still be working, but I'm at home managing the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, the schooling, all of this. Like, it's getting weird. And so, you've had this evolution where you've been a stay-at-home dad. You went from, a job to being at home while trying to create these passion projects. I think there's tremendous value for people right now in this world trying to understand, how the hell do I do this? All my friends who are, who went from corporate jobs and are now trying to figure out how to work at home, they're like, I can't do this. Like, and these are the guys that, like, guys or girls, they haven't figured out how to get dressed anymore.
Yeah,
like everybody's just like, I'm in robes and sweatpants until 3 o'clock.
They don't even know what day it is. Sometimes they're like, wait, it's Wednesday, right? Wait, Thursday.
What is today?
Or who knows?
It's Thursday. But so question really quick, how are you, I forgot my question for a second, but I want to know, because you're like on this, you're on cruise control right now. And I know, that eventually the doc is going to show up where you're like, okay, I got to figure out what I'm going to be doing next. But have you gotten like backlash from being a stay-at-home dad? Because even though there's like, a neutral world where anybody could be home doing that, do you get like people saying must be nice being a stay-at-home dad? Or do you get that like, gosh, I wish I was playing golf right now and at work and not with these kids at home? Do you ever have those moments? Well, you're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about moments of wanting to not be getting jumped on and cleaning up spilled milk. Yeah, that's almost daily. There's been days where I just wish I was on a conference call or stuck in a boring training meeting or something like that. I think I don't have as much backlash. I've blocked out a lot of the noise. I was really self-conscious the first year I was a stay-at-home dad. It was very rare. A lot of the playgrounds I would take my boys to when they were babies, it was just me and moms and nannies. And there were no dads in sight during the week. And I had to learn to like be a shield to judgment. And like, if some mom was going to judge me for what I'm feeding my kid, or if my kid got hurt, or if they're melting down, like, very early on, I learned to just block out the noise, look at my son, both my boys, and just be like, that's all that matters. Like, and I don't care if someone's looking at me funny for what I'm doing with them. Like, I don't know. I block out the judgment, but at first it took a long time for me to get there, because I was very self-conscious about, one, letting people know I was a stay-at-home dad the first year and a half. I didn't lead with it. I wasn't proud of it. I kept it right by my chest. Like, I didn't promote it. But I've also done a 180 where now I'm so incredibly proud of the last 5 years of my life that I want to scream it from the top of a mountain and just share my story to hopefully inspire others to go
You
down
have
there.
a bigger-
Amen.
Yeah, you obviously hit over 10,000 followers, right?
You're at
And
Yeah,
50.
we're at like 50, little over 50
that's
somehow.
amazing. And what type of engagement are you getting from your followers? Is it mostly men or is it women, or how are they responding and engaging with you?
It's a lot of women. I mean, I think social media wise, women and moms are more active online. I think my followers are 60% women and moms, but
Interesting.
the quality interactions and the ones that I'm, pull at my heartstrings and perk my ears up are just dads, commenting about how they can relate to a similar struggle that was posted or a story, or, just sharing little anecdotes. I try and always share a post, but pose a question to just kind of spark engagement. I love reading through. I read almost every comment. I encourage people to share it if they can relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stuff that is shared, my favorite things are just hearing dads talk about what their life or what their day is like, or that they're going through something similar, or appreciating that somebody's shining a light on a stigma that dads go through, or a hardship that dads go through that a lot of people don't think about. So I love engagement. I try and respond to as much as possible. People hitting me up via DM, just sharing really personal trials and tribulations that they're going through. I love to connect, that way as well. So I'm trying to build a community. I mean, I'm not here just for likes and shares. Like, I really want to help people. And I was teetering. I never really wanted to inject too much of my life through Viral Dads. So I've just recently opened up my personal page, This American Dad, where I'm going to keep my personal life, a lot of it over there. But I didn't want people also to think that Viral Dads was just some big company or a slew of college interns like sharing parenting stuff. And truth be told, there's some pretty big parenting pages out there that the people behind them don't even have kids, and they're just going for the money and the sponsorship dollars. And I mean, do you, but I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. I think that's my strength. I think that's a value I can bring to other people as well. So
well said, Evan.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know your kids are away, but I know this is your alone time. You're gonna put a facial mask on and put some
Hell has
layers
frozen
on.
over. This is the first
Bubble
time.
bath.
Yes.
Is there a bubble bath coming on, and he's gonna
watch
pour his
some.
glass of wine.
Yeah, I got my beer right here waiting
There
for
you
me.
go.
But we got NBA basketball. I'm a big basketball guy, so I'm gonna watch some basketball till my eyes bleed.
There you go.
It was a lot of fun. I hope somebody's out there found value in my mumblings. If anybody has questions, they can hit me up. They can comment on a post. I love hearing from fans and followers. But hopefully there's little tidbits of information that have helped some people today.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for even thinking of talking to me.
You had some great
Appreciate
insight,
that.
and I appreciate you taking the time. There's a lot of women who are already following you who probably appreciate your insight, and it's just nice to see, your mom did a good job. Tara said
She's
that.
the best. She's
Yeah.
the best. Shout out to my mom.
Yeah.
Shout out to your mom. So Evan Nimke at This American Dad at Viral Dads. We've got Be a Good Human Today and Choose Happy. We've got a lot of stuff that we're going to be putting in our show notes so that you can track Evan, the Evan Nimke, not the Evan that's speaking at this point. Great name again, by the way. Evan, thank you so much for being a part of the Single Parents Daily podcast. It was a true honor to have you here.
Anytime. I appreciate it. Keep in touch. Be well.
Will do, for sure.
Have a great night, whatever day it is. So thank you guys again.
Thank you.